Alright, in this video we are going to cover number 1 from 2014. This is a rate in, rate out type of problem, and it is calculator based. If you haven't done it yet, please pause the video and do it yourself, and then come back and check your work. Alright, for number 1, it says grass clippings are placed in a bin where they decompose. The amount of grass clippings remaining in the bin is modeled by A of t, where A of t is measured in pounds and t is measured in days. So before we actually read the question here, it says that A is the amount of grass clippings. So pay close attention to that. The units on that are in pounds. So for part A, it says find the average rate of change of A over the interval 0 to 30. So that should be pretty easy. The average rate of A is just going to be A of 30 minus A of 0 over 30 minus 0. And then we can type into our calculator, type this into our Y list, and then just type in Y1 parentheses X close parentheses evaluated when X equals 30, and then when X equals 0. And we get 0.783 minus 6.687 all over 30, and then that simplifies to negative 0.197. The units on this, because A represents pounds and we are taking A prime, it's going to be pounds per day. Alright, so point values on this. Oh, actually, before that, there's one other way of doing this. This is the average rate of A. Another way to do that is find the average value of A prime. So we could have done this as 1 over 30 minus 0 times the integral from 0 to 30 of A prime of t dt. Again, understand why. This is the average value of the integrand. So the integrand is A prime. So this is the average value of A prime, or it's the average rate of A. Average rate of A. So you could use either method. I think the more traditional method is probably just the average slope, but just making that connection between the two is important. The average rate of A is equal to the average value of A prime, and you would get the same answer. As far as points, you're going to get 1 point for your answer with the units, and that is it. Part B, it says find the value of A prime of 15, so let's do that first. To find A prime of 15, we're just going to take the derivative of A and plug in 15. This is purely calculator, so you should not be taking the derivative by yourself. Even though you should be able to, you shouldn't do it on a calculator problem just because you might make mistakes. So just A prime of 15, plugging that into your calculator, the derivative evaluated at 15 is negative 0.164. And then it says use correct units and interpret the meaning of the value in the context of the problem. So remember, when we have an interpretation, there's always 4 parts. What is it? What is the value? What is the units? And then what is the time or the time interval? In this case, because we're talking about A prime, and A is the amount of grass clippings, then A prime is going to be the rate of grass clippings, if you would. So we would say the amount of grass clippings is decreasing, okay, at a rate of 0.164 pounds per day when t equals 15 days. So make sure we understand the 4 things. The amount of grass clippings in the bin is decreasing at a rate. So that is what it is. The value of this is 0.164, and you may go, well, why didn't you put negative 0.164? That's because I use the word decreasing. So the amount is decreasing because the rate is negative. So the amount of grass clippings in the bin is decreasing at a rate of, so that's what it is. This is the value, there's your units, and then this is your time. As far as points go on this, you're going to get 1 point for A prime of 15, so 1 point for figuring that value, and then 1 point for your interpretation using your correct units and having all 4 parts there. For part C, it says find the time for which the amount of grass clippings in the bin is equal to the average amount of grass clippings in the bin. Well, that's interesting. How do we figure out when the amount of grass clippings in the bin is equal to the average amount of grass clippings in the bin? Well, the amount of grass clippings is represented by A of t. The question is, what what is the average amount of grass clippings? Well, that's the average value. So we would say 1 over 30 minus 0 times the integral of the amount. So that will be the average amount. So 1 over 30 minus 0 times the integral from 0 to 30 of a of t dt is the average amount of grass clippings. And we can just use our calculator to get that numeric value. That's going to be 2.753. So we want to know when the amount of grass clippings is equal to the average amount. So this is the average amount, and then a of t represents the amount, so we're just going to set a of t equal to 2.753. In our calculator, you should have a of t saved in your y list, and then in y2, I'm going to put 2.753, so we're going to get a constant line there. And then we're going to look for the intersection of those two functions, and that intersection is at 12.415. As far as points go, you're going to get 1 point for the average value expression. So basically, if you wrote out 1 over 30 minus 0 times the integral from 0 to 30 of a of t dt, you would have the average value expression. You get that point. You get 1 point for your answer, so 1 point for 12.415. For part D, it says for t is greater than 30, so notice that this a function only represents the time from 0 to 30. So for values greater than 30, it says that L of t, which is the linear approximation to a at t equals 30, is a better model for the amount of grass clippings remaining in the bin. Use L of t to predict the time for which there will be 0.5 pounds of grass clippings remaining in the bin. All right, so the first thing we know is that L of t is the linear approximation of a when t equals 30. So another way of saying that is that L of t is the tangent line of a when t equals 30. So we're going to develop the equation for the tangent line. Remember, we need two things for that. We need to know what the slope is, so that will be whatever a prime of 30 is, and we need to know the point. Well, we know when t equals 30, so to find the point, we're just going to plug in 30 to a and get our point. So a prime of 30, typing that in my calculator, I end up with negative 0.056. And then a of 30, when I just plug in 30 into my time here for a, I get 0.783. So there is my slope, and there is my point. So my tangent line is going to be y minus 0.783 equals negative 0.056 times x minus 30. And then because it says that the L of t is a defined function, we have to isolate L of t. And remember, y is L of t. So we're going to get y by itself here by adding 0.783 to both sides. You can distribute if you want, but we don't need to. We'll just leave it like that. And then so we'll say L of t is equal to that tangent line. So that is our tangent line. That is our linear approximation. Now it says that L of t predicts the time for which there will be 0.5 pounds of grass clippings. So L of t now represents how much grass clippings there are left for values greater than 30. So what we're going to do to figure out the time when there's 0.5 pounds of grass clippings remaining is we're going to set L of t equal to 0.5. So we'd say 0.5 equals negative 0.056 times t minus 30 plus 0.783. And from here we can just use algebra to solve this, or we can use our calculator. However you want to do this, the answer is going to be t equals 35.054, and that would be days. All right, as far as points go, you're going to get 2 points for figuring out L of t. So I would guess that you would get 1 point for understanding that you need these two values here. So basically, if you got a prime of 30 and a of 30, you'd get the one of those points, and then you would get another point for defining what L of t is, so this line right here, or something equivalent to it where it says L of t equals. Then you're going to get 1 point for setting L of t equal to 0.5, and then you're going to get 1 point for your answer. So that wraps up this question. The next question is going to be a quiz, so make sure you do this on your own. It's question number 1 from 2019. Set a timer for 12 minutes and do as much as you can. Hopefully you can do it all, and then come back ready to grade it in the next video.